9 times 5. 9 times 5.
9 times 5! What is 9 times 5? Tell me now! 45. And with that said, in the celebration of 45 Day, which is coming up this week, we're gonna go through a little bit of the history around 45s, but also how we can emulate it in Soundtrap. So let's get to it. Welcome back everyone to Ask the Producer series. My name is Adam, and today 45 Day, a good celebration for all of the old school singles and EPs that were printed onto 45s. Why they're called 45 is because of the playback speed. They had a 45 RPM, which is like 45 rotations per minute. The 45s were a lot smaller than the regular sized LPs. With these, they were a lot easier to store just based on the fact that they were just smaller in size, but that would also mean that they couldn't keep as many songs on one disc. So they were mainly for singles and EPs. Now 45 Day is celebrating the aspect of 45s. Historically, they've been used in many different ways for listening and sampling a lot of the times. Now, we're gonna go into how we can implement and emulate that same thing in Soundtrap. Now here in Soundtrap, we have the sampler pulled up. You can find it here using the Add New Track, and then down here at the bottom, you have a sampler. What you also can do if you're trying this out for the first time, you can listen to the loop that you wanna use, and then you can click and drag it into the sampler, and it will import the file. It would auto detect the pitch of it, so it plays out on the keys nicely. Now, with 45s and sampling, you would be sampling the entirety of that track that is being played. So imagine this to be something along the lines of a song starter. I am going to go in and search for our song starters that we have. Generally, the idea that you want to do when you're sampling something like this is to think about what is actually contained within these samples. So this one's perfect. So let's pick this one. So what I'm listening to here is kind of the range of all of the elements that are in here. So this one has bass, it has synths. What I also want is to keep the length of the sample at a pretty good length so it doesn't cut off too quickly, so it becomes just a general stab. But I also want to be able to play it. So this one has a long kind of swell with a long chord that goes in there. So I'm going to pull this one into the sampler. So now I'm going to do some edits to this to make sure that I'm only separating out that chord. So if you listen to it, there it changed chords. So I'm going to zoom in and make sure that I am on just that one chord. Given the nature of sampling, so as you can hear, it's going to be playing faster in the high end than in the low end. So what you can also do is add the looping feature here. Let's see. You hear that super repetitive kind of thing? If I pull the crossfade in, it's going to fade between those 2 points. So what we can do now is have a really nice kind of like creative swell and stab in our productions. And you can also play them, which is great. Now we can also change a lot of the parameters we would in a synth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to legato. Here we also have the glide feature, which is great. So you can do things like this. One thing that I also like is pulling up the release. So you get a little bit of a tail as it comes down, as I'm releasing the note. And now I'm literally just pressing it down. So here we have this now. Which is a really cool way of emulating that tape speed kind of ramp up thing. What we can also do, if we want to make it even more of a crossfaded kind of feeling, we can go into the effects and we can add a reverb. So if I'm adding the reverb, let's go to church, for example. Let's pull this up and then we get. So now we have a completely new synth that we can use in any of our productions. One thing that I also want you to think about is you can make your own song starter to pull into the sampler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and just write something along the lines of chords. Let's see what we have. This could be cool. So I'm going to start off with this. Then I'm going to go into guitar. Let's try this one, shall we? So now we have two elements of it. Let's just pull in a random kind of texture one as well. So diorite is one of my favorites that I keep on using all the time. So you can mix this a little as you're creating your song starter. I am also going to add the tape noise from the Beanie pack. There we have it. So we get a little bit of noise there in the background as well. So this one actually has a little bit of an out of tune element in there. So what I'm going to do here with this one is go to edit and then go to vocal tuner. Now this one's in G major. I'm going to go to extreme and then I'm just going to apply. And now we have this. So everything is in key. Everything sounds nice. I'm now going to go in and just mix this a little bit. There is 2 chords in this piano loop. So as you can hear, as you can see here, as I hold Option or Alt on Windows users, you can see this little stretch arrow come. So I can click and drag that one, make it twice as long. And the thing is, with sampling, you can really mangle and destroy the audio in a very strange way and still make it sound kind of interesting. Now, in the settings, you can use merge tracks. You can merge all of these. And now we have this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this as a WAV file. Now this comes into my downloads folder. In the sampler now, we can pull this back in. I know this is a very roundabout way of doing things, but it gets so interesting when you use audio like this. It makes things sound nothing like they did before. And that is what I love about this. So now I can just pull this in a little bit, add the looping feature, make sure everything is crossfaded. And now we have. So now we can go into the legato setting, change our glide a little bit, and now we can have. So now we have a full new soundscaping kind of tool. Hear how cool that sounds? So there's a little bit of the element of the guitar still in there, but the piano is completely turned into like an organ or something similar. There's a weird kind of mangled voice in there as well. And also a tip as you're playing this, just make use out of these two. So you play a C and a G, and it's always going to sound really, really nice. And this is regardless of the key that you're playing in. And now we can actually just add some drums for the sake of it. I'm going to add a Bushwick drums. And then we have a little bit of a lo-fi thing going on. So let's record something, shall we? And now you can quantize it. You can change it to whatever you want. You can add reverb to make it change even more. Another fun thing to add is the vocal doubler. And you can make it even wider. And now we have a really, really exciting kind of sound out of this weird song starter loop that we just put together from nothing. Or we could play the same thing. I'm just gonna make this into a legato thing, so it's just playing long notes. Now listen to this. I love the way that it changes sort of the playback speed of the entire thing, mangles the audio, and kind of like creates a weird soundscape that you never would have heard otherwise. So here is to designing your own song starters. You can put them together. You can get all of the creative sounds that you want. There's a lot of playing in this workflow, which I am an advocate for. So make sure you try it out in the studio. With that said, I wanted to thank everybody so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like down below and a follow. If you have any more questions for me to answer in the Ask the Producer series, please leave them in the comments down below as well. Now, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.